So no worries there at all. Okay, everybody. So now, again, from our website, scrolling down, as you've heard me say before, I'm going to open the instructions document and the PDF, the folder with all the code PDFs in it, so that we can now go through our tutorial. We've really gotten through quite a bit of this. We've done all of this stuff from the first, I think, 6 or 7 pages. We copied and pasted, and I'd read some of what was going on there, okay? Even here on this part on the first, so on the vehicle select screen, we'd even done this last piece of code yesterday to move from one vehicle to the next vehicle and dispose of this. But there is still something left on that screen right there. And that's this line right here that we haven't put in yet. So we will be coming back to that one line in a second. But we need to make this thing first. We need to make something called the game screen. So I'm just going to scroll ahead to where that happens. That happens, I believe, on page 10. We're going to add another form to our project. And form is a word that you would have heard in the grade 10 computer science course. In Java, they tend to use the word frame, but also form. They kind of put them together. So you can see here how it says we're going to do it. We're going to go File, New File, Swing GUI Form, JFrame Form. Okay, so let's do this. Before we get into any coding, we're going to once again add another thing to our project. Now, we added a form once before. It was the vehicle select form. This is why it has a slightly different icon to the other ones. These are just classes, right? From this one here, by the way, this one has that little green triangle in it because it's the one class that has the main method in it. And main is how this thing starts. That's how you started this course, is always writing your code in main. But this one here is one of these designable forms, implementing that visual designer, which is really cool. So we're going to add another one of those. Now, I showed you guys another way to do this yesterday by right-clicking on the package. So we're going to do that again. I'm going to right-click on that package, new. So I'm right-clicking with my mouse right on that little picture of a package, new. Okay, so right-click here, go to new. You want to find somewhere in this list the words JFrame form. It may be in the list in a slightly different spot that you see mine, right? It depends. The list sort of changes depending on how you use it. This is the one we've been using up to this point. We've been creating Java classes. But what we're going to make right now is a JFrame form. So you see how Java uses the word both frame and form to describe what we're building here. All right, so right-click, new JFrame form. We're going to build this thing, and in order to match the code, we're going to name it properly. And the name of it, just so you know, is going to be game screen. And notice it has a capital G and a capital S, game screen. Okay, there you can see the capital G and the capital S. Click finish. And it's once again going to open up that visual designer with a toolbox and a properties window, and we'll build it in a second. We'll get to the building part in a second. What I want to do though is I want to go back and finish. There's one line of code we still have to put in here. And that one line of code is what jumps it from this form over to this form. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. So let's go back to vehicle select. And you're going to find that line of code that says this.dispose, which was one of the last lines we put in yesterday. And now I'm going to go back to vehicle select, the PDF, scroll right to the bottom of the last page, and that's where that line goes. Okay? And I can even grab the comment in the line above it. Reminder, if you're having trouble selecting the code, if it's not, as you drag your mouse, it's just not selecting. First, double click a word and then click and drag. Copy. Paste. Okay. Clean up the code. That was easy. I just could hit tab a couple times. this creates a brand new game screen, this thing here, and makes it appear on the screen. So we haven't actually done a design yet with the game screen, but let's see what would happen if this code currently runs. Okay, just to feel out where we are at this point today. So if I try to choose a vehicle without putting a name in, we already saw that that doesn't allow that. You have to enter a name first. So then if I choose a vehicle, in theory, it should be going to this game screen right now. And it actually is. You'll notice this program is still running. It's not stopped yet. So I'm going to have to hit stop to stop it. So the game screen is happening. It's just not visible on your screen yet. So we got to add the code to game screen to make that happen. Okay. So I'm going to close all the other things now, because other than game screen, all of these are done. They're all coded. Everything is done. All that's left to deal with is game screen. And you might remember yesterday I said, if you don't want to do this entire tutorial, if you want to stop at where we finished yesterday, you could get a solid 70% on this tutorial if it's all done properly. But in order to get the full 100% on this tutorial, and think about that, that's a generous offer to get 100% on a unit by just doing a tutorial. Okay, no tests, no nothing. That you would have to also finish this game screen to get to the 100. Okay. So now we're at game screen. We've got to build a design here. So this is where the instructions come in handy, because here it shows you all the things you're going to be building on this thing to build up a design. And in reality, everything you're going to put on here, if you look through the list, is a label. Everything is a label. Jlabel, 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 Jlabel. This entire design is built from labels. Okay? I know we could have put buttons and other things on there, but I wanted to show you the flexibility of this thing called a Jlabel in Java. So the Jlabel is found under swing controls, and it's right here, the very first thing called label. Be careful not to pick the one down here under AWT. That's the wrong one. Okay, it also says label, but it's under swing and it says label. Why the label is so versatile is in Java, the Jlabel also can act as a type of picture box. It can also show pictures inside of it. So it can show colors, it can show text, it can show pictures. It's very versatile, okay? If you took the grade 10 computer science course, you might remember that they had this thing called a picture box, which displayed pictures. You'll notice that doesn't appear here in Java because the label is essentially Java's version of a picture box. Okay. As you can see, what you're going to use is this palette window and eventually the properties window to make all these things happen. Okay? Now, we're going to go down here a little bit. It says it doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but here's one of the properties you're going to change to make your labels, for example, filled in with a solid color. So I'm going to show you how to do that, right, as we put on labels onto our design here. First thing, though, I'm going to do is I'm going to make my design bigger by stretching it out, both width-wise and height-wise. So it's a bigger design here, because I want to fit like a lot more stuff in here. Okay, again, doesn't have to match mine exactly. Okay, so I'm going to drop my first label on there. Okay, there it is, label 1. And now I got to think about, okay, well, how am I going to make these labels change? So I know how to put words inside a label. That's not that hard. But how do I make a label just a solid yellow or a solid black? Like, how do I do that? How do I stretch it out like that? So it's at the bottom of this instruction page here on page, whatever page this is, page 10, where it goes over these details. Okay, so you're going to be changing properties opaque and background. Okay, you'll also be using an ellipse to change the background color. So these two things are connected. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with this label is, sure, I can stretch it out. But if I go to the property called opaque, which you might have to scroll to find, opaque is further down the list here. Okay, so this is properties, the properties window of the Jlabel, and here's opaque, and there's a little checkbox there. Okay, and what it says is it's the opaque. Anyways, just check it off. Check off opaque. Once opaque has been checked off, now you can fill in that label with a color. If you haven't checked it off, the label is transparent, it's see-through. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up to the word background right here. Background now has the ability to fill in a color right here. But rather than type in numbers, what I'm going to suggest you click on is the little button with the 3 dots inside of it called a ellipse or ellipses. If you click that button, what you're going to find is you're going to get a color chooser appear where you can actually pick the color in more detail. And this is actually a really good color picker. It's got several different ways you can choose from colors here. Like it's not just this set here. You can go here, you can scroll through the colors, you can go to this one, you can go to this one, this one. There's all kinds of different ways you can choose colors. I'm just going to keep it simple and just pick yellow from this swatch of colors. By the way, for those of you guys who are wondering, programmers, when they design this, they wanted to make it look like when you go to a paint store and you have to pick through the colors there. That's what it's supposed to look like. So I click OK. Now you can see my label is filled in with a color. As far as text goes, I can just remove the text, like take it right out. And now I got a nice sort of square that I can move around, rectangle, and I can start to build a design up of different colored rectangles here. Okay, so I'm going to need a whole bunch of different rectangles here to build this. Some of them are going to be different colors. So yeah, you can copy and paste this as well. So once I have one of these, I can copy it, click away from it, and paste it. Now I have 2 of them. Okay, but I am going to give you guys a little tip here for the design, and I don't think this is actually in the instructions here. I don't think it is. Could be wrong, but yeah, I don't think it is. That's right. Okay, before we get to the coding part. Okay, when you go and paste this stuff, you're going to get these little springy things that help try to position all your labels, and that can be super annoying. It doesn't always allow you to position to help you, but it ends up not helping you. So maybe you paste one and you're like, well, I'm going to put this one up here and I'm going to make it wider. And it doesn't always fit and it doesn't always move properly. So I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You don't have to do this. It's not in the instructions, but if you want, this might be helpful. Right click on the form itself. Be careful you're not right clicking on a Jlabel, but right click on the background, on the frame. Right? So I'm going to right click. Okay. I'm going to go to set layout. Once I right click, I'm going to go here to set layout. And it's sluggish. There we go. So and I want this in the video. I right click on the frame, not a label. Not right click on a label. Then you go to set layout. And what I want you to pick here is this one that just says null layout. Okay, null layout will not try to help you. It'll just allow you to place the labels wherever your mouse drags them. And I find it can be helpful for designing this. Null layout. Okay, now you'll notice no matter where I put the labels, nothing happens there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up all the labels. So what I need is one up here for what's called the top wall. We'll get to the naming later. I'm going to need one here for the left wall. I'm going to need one here for the right wall and one down here for the bottom wall. So I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 labels. Now in my image here, I made them yellow, But I actually think I'm going to change the color there to a different color because I'm also going to be using yellow for these sort of like street lines in the racing game. So I'm going to select these, and I can hold control and multiple select them. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make these maybe green. Okay. And I'm going to have this one for my top wall. That one should be pretty big. I'm going to have this one for my left side wall. And yes, it can overlap with the other one. That doesn't matter. I'm going to need one for my bottom wall down here. This one should be pretty skinny for the bottom wall. And then I'm going to need one. I'm just going to copy and paste this one. For my right wall over here. Okay, so that's how I can quickly build up 1, 2, 3, 4 labels. Another thing that might be useful when you're working in the designer is the Navigator. The Navigator now, as it changes to help you with the design. So you can now see your labels sort of on the design here. It doesn't show you code anymore when you're doing the design. The Navigator shows you the different things on your design. Okay, so now I'm going to paste in another label, but I'm going to make this one smaller, thinner, and I am going to make this one yellow. These ones are going to represent my street lines. So you'll notice for the street lines, I actually want 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of them is kind of up here. It's kind of hidden because they're going to slide onto the screen. So I'm going to build those. 1, copy, paste. 2, paste. 3, paste. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter too much, but try to space them out fairly evenly. Try to put them kind of in the center there so that they're kind of in between one another because we're going to move them using code and we want it to look fairly natural looking. Okay. Now this one you'll notice is in front of the other ones. We'll worry about that later. Okay. We'll worry about positioning one thing on top of the other later. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build 2 of these, one for the cars. This one's going to be my enemy car, and this one's going to be the car for the hero or for us. We're going to control that one. Now in my design, I made them both the same color, black, but you don't have to do that. Paste another one of these. You can make them whatever color you want. So for example, I'm going to make my enemy car black, but then I'm going to copy, paste it, and I'm going to make my car, you know what, it won't really matter what color you make your car because the code's going to change its color anyways. But there we've got those 2 things. Okay. We only have 1 minute left. I still need 1, 2, 3, 4 more labels. But these labels aren't going to be filled in with a color. They're just going to have text in them. So rather than copy and paste those ones, I'm just going to drag over a label. Okay. And I'm going to write text in it. And now it's important for you to know how to move these things in front of or behind these things. And the way to do it is with the Navigator. When you add a new label, think of this as like a stack of a pizza. And this is the top of the pizza. So if I want this label here to be above the other labels, or in other words, on top, I have to use my Navigator and drag it up the order here and let go. Oops. So I got to drag it up. So now Jlabel 11 is on top of the other labels. And now I can have it put the word name in there. And my advice as well for these labels is make them wide. They're going to need to fit text in there. So make them a nice wide label. Once you have one of them, you can copy and paste it. Okay. And then you got to use the navigator to move it up again. And then position it. And then paste it. Time is running out, and then paste it. And so then you can use that navigator to move those labels up. So now you got these, and I can hear the time's running out. I just want to quickly type in the name. So time, cars passed, and damage remaining. So I'm going to put this one, I'm going to have it just say time. This one, I'm going to have it say cars passed. And what's the other one? Damage remaining. There we go. That's our design now done. Our design is done for this thing where we're going to be putting code in. So that's where we're going to stop today. So I'm going to stop my recording.